So what is going on here, Paul Watson, as you take over the transmission?
Well, good to be back, Alex. Basically, we're importing a culture that's absolutely horrific, and the media won't tell us the truth about it. Similar case in London, Alex. We've got these acid attacks almost every weekend now. In fact, sometimes every day.
I thought you had 5 attacks this weekend. What's wrong with throwing acid on women's faces? It's liberal.
It's progressive. But Alex, the vast majority of these acid attacks are taking place in, well, not the clear majority at least, are taking place in Newham and Tower Hamlets, 2 boroughs of London that, surprise, surprise, are Muslim ghettos. They admit that in the articles, but then when it actually comes to naming the individuals responsible for the attacks, they refuse to name the individuals. They named one individual yesterday, called him a 19-year-old boy. Now, Alex, in the United Kingdom, you're legally an adult when you hit 18.
Sure, but when they rape women all over Europe, even if they're 25, they're called a boy.
Yeah. It's impossible to be a 19-year-old boy in the United Kingdom. Legally, that's a man. And of course, he's called Ahmed, Mohammed, something.
Sure.
The majority of these incidents are in Islamic ghettos.
I will throw acid on your face, bitch, for showing it. Ha ha ha! Now you are ugly. I am beautiful. Durka Durka Muhammad Jihad.
I mean, bear in mind that this comes from the same culture that literally allows old men to rape young boys, and that's part of their culture.
And that's why they like Hastert. That's why Hastert gets 13 months, and for robbery, OJ gets 9 years.
So we've got acid attacks almost every day. Last night there was another one. They flagged down an ambulance, I think it was, an emergency worker, pretending that they were in distress, just so they could throw acid in her face. There's not even a criminal motive in some of these cases. They're not even like stealing anything. It's just part of their fun to just disfigure people for life. That's progressive. That's liberal. We should embrace that. Get down on our knees and say Allah Akbar. And meanwhile, Alex, obviously in Saudi Arabia, you probably covered this earlier, they hunted down and arrested a young woman for, God forbid, wearing a skirt as she visited a national monument in Saudi Arabia. Because foreigners are allowed to do that if they visit. Actual Saudi citizens aren't. Where are the feminists today, Alex? Where are they? Completely frigging silent. They're more bothered about advertising in the United
news won't even show the thousands of videos of them blocking roads, robbing people all over Europe. They've declared civil emergency for years on French roads. Your family had to evacuate France. There's just Muslims running around, foaming at the mouth. They've taken over the tunnel. They're flooding everywhere, just climbing over. And hell, we don't even show it. It's just like we're just accepting it.
You've literally got the Advertising Standards Agency banning advertisements that push gender stereotypes, which is basically, you know, women being attractive. I mean, you had Reebok come out and lecture people, don't compliment women on their appearance. Oh, that's a surefire way to end up as a lonely loser, isn't it, Alex? I get absolutely crucified by my girlfriend if I don't compliment her on her appearance. Women love that. So again, it's all about imposing this Sharia style. They had the beach body poster, remember that, a couple of years ago, and Sadiq Khan banned it. So it's this slow Sharia creep where it's being imposed culturally that you can't compliment women. And then also, while women are actually being oppressed, nobody's calling that out. Nobody gives a damn about the woman in Saudi Arabia. Feminists don't. They're still upset about, you know, body positivity and telling people that obesity is unhealthy. It's absolutely insane. And these acid attacks in London, right outside my door, there was a machete attack a couple of months ago. This is every single day now. Crime's going through the roof. We've had numerous terror attacks. We got these acid attacks. And what is Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, concerned about? He's concerned about Donald Trump being insulting to Muslims, so he's not going to welcome him when he comes to the United Kingdom.
It's incredible,
Khan
Paul.
Insults Londoners on a daily basis with his sheer and utter incompetence. People getting acid attacked. We've got terror attacks every other week. And he's worried about Donald Trump being mean to Muslims on Twitter. That's the situation. It's absolutely abhorrent, and it seems to be getting worse every day. Alex, I'm going to have to move out of London soon. I mean, I'm going to have to move to some boring area of the country where nothing happens, because that's the only place you can get away from some of the consequences that have been foisted on us by this multiculturalism.
And there are the Somalis in France, literal Somalis. This looks like Day of the Dead here, zombieing around, blocking trucks, and then robbing it and robbing the cargo. There's even footage of them like tearing open trucks from zoos that have like, polar bears in the back and crazy stuff. I mean, it's like Road Warrior, and they are literally just trying to cover all this up, Paul. What do you think the master plan is? Because the big news is the EU has announced that they're going to stop fleets. They're going to stop EU member nations' ships from taking Muslims back to Africa, and that they're basically going to use the EU military to help Soros bring in more millions. 10 million now, they say, brought into Europe. I thought it was 5 million. It's 10 million that they just announced. What are they planning? What is the master plan here by the EU?
The master plan, and some of them admit it, is the complete collapse of Western civilization, and it's already happened. They get up in front of Parliament and brag about how Germans are going to be a minority in their own cities within 20 years. That's already the case in Frankfurt, Germany, big city.
But it's not like they're bringing in Argentinians or Chinese or something that historically don't have high crime rates and want to work and assimilate. They're bringing in North Africans. They're bringing in East Africa that's been a hellhole forever. They're with radical Muslim culture. They're bringing in the people that invaded Syria. They're bringing in 80% military-age men. They're bringing them in and letting them do whatever they want and worshiping gypsies. And MTV worships gypsies as if they're God. Tell folks about what gypsies are like in Europe.
Well, there are huge crime problems with gypsies. I mean, Italy's been suffering for that for decades. There was another case in Vienna, by the way. You mentioned Somalis. A middle-aged woman walking her dog was attacked, scratched, bit by a Somali migrant because she actually dared, Alex, to walk her dog in the park. Dogs are unclean. That's what this attacker said. She was viciously attacked by an 18-year-old Somali. Again, it's probably like a 35-year-old, but they all lie about their age. But again, the most basic, fundamental, pleasurable leisure pursuit, walking a dog in a European country, now you're even at risk if you do that because of this culture that we've imported. And it's just getting worse every single day. I'm going to go on to talk about it.
I mean, let's just say it. It looks like something out of a zombie movie. There's hundreds of these videos of them just grabbing trucks, grabbing families, dragging them out. There's raw footage of them raping women. I mean, I sat there one night and watched tapes, and I had to turn it off because I only watched like 3 of them. There's like 30-minute, hour-long rape videos at concerts with like 15 men lined up, 2 men holding each arm and each leg, raping women, and the police do nothing. And you're watching them rape women, and it's like it's an anti-racism event. So the Muslims go to those to rape the dingbat women, who then make excuses for it. And it's been in the German news and the Stockholm news. They will say, I said a German raped me, or I said a Swede raped me because I didn't want to be racist. They then say that a white man raped them. They don't just get raped by the precious Muslims. They then say that a German or a Swede did it, Paul.
No, there was a case on, I think it was a train in Germany, where a woman got raped by an Iraqi migrant, and she refused to report it to police because she said, oh, he's had a difficult life getting over here from Iraq, so maybe I should just be nice to him. Alex, every woman I talk to says that Europe has completely changed, from France to Germany, whatever major city you want to talk about. The harassment is there. The bottom line is liberals and leftists are going to get raped. They're the ones who are going to get harassed because they think everything's hunky-dory and that these people are going to tolerate them.
Yeah, imagine these women in Sweden go to events where it's half Muslim men and then the rest a bunch of drugged out Swede men, and they get raped. What do you think's going to happen? Every time they have them, there's mass rapes. These people are laughing at us.
No, the more hardcore ones think that they have the right to our spoils, our Western spoils, and that includes women. So you're going to get in Europe, and it's already happening, if you're not covered up, like the girl in Saudi Arabia that was hunted down and arrested for wearing a skirt.
Yeah, that's why they wear hoods, folks, because you're fair game to be raped if you don't. And if you fight back, they're going to pour acid on your face. Or if you try to have a job or drive a car or walk a dog, they're going to show you women don't walk dogs, men don't walk dogs, and women don't work, and women don't drive cars. And Linda Sarsour said, you're going to like it.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. And at least it's having some impact financially, Alex, because we had the article up today. The tourist industry in America was saying, oh, Trump's going to be disastrous for tourism. This is going to be horrible. 6 months into his presidency, 6, 7 months, Tourism in the United States is up 5-6%. Hotel rooms are fuller. Guess where it's collapsing, Alex? It's collapsing in France, Germany, in London, in Brussels, in all these cities. When they ask the tourists why they're not going there, when they ask why hotel rooms in Paris have halved since 2015 occupancy, they say migrants and terrorism. So it's hitting these.
And Paul, let's expand on that. Let's expand on that. Your family had to leave France. You know, they got rid of the steel industry that your parents were involved in. They sold everything they had, moved to France. Bed and breakfast had to leave there, went to another country now. This is real. This is happening. I'm going to get out of here and let you take over. You're always doing a great job. It's just so incredible that they have 80% of their tourism in France down in the last decade. As you said, most of that just since 2 years ago. It's accelerating. I was in Italy, in Rome. It looked like there was just feces all over the ground. North Africans everywhere. Every tree, there's not a lot of trees in Rome, had like 20 people under it, just camping out, laying around. There was robberies everywhere. The police looked totally freaked out. There were gypsies everywhere trying to steal our bags. We had Romans running up trying to protect us, saying, watch out, a gypsy's behind you. This happened like 10 times where I'd be sitting there with my wife, not my ex-wife, my wife. I've been married for years, folks. You know, running up, you know, grabbing all this other stuff. And it was just like insane asylum to witness all of this happening. And then you ask, what are the globalists doing? Like you did a video last week, George Clooney said Europe's too dangerous and has just sold all his mansions and is leaving when he's the one pushing for total open borders.
There was a big story out of RT today about what's happening in Germany, which of course took in 2 million migrants since 2015 at least. Merkel said she would reverse that policy. Now it seems as though she's going ahead with it full steam anyway. This is out of RT. Sexual assaults and shocking violence involving migrants near German town fair. Now, this was 1,000 migrants attacking quite, not a massive city. This is quite a, medium-sized town in Germany. 1,000 migrants throwing bottles at the police, throwing bottles at festival goers, raping, assaulting women. Imagine having that visited on your little town fair out of nowhere. Absolutely horrendous. The German town summer fair turned violent over the weekend with multiple sexual assaults reported. A group of youths also attacked visitors and officers, with police stating that many of the offenders were, imagine my shock, migrants, and they were desperate, the police. They were calling for backup from all the surrounding towns. They had to call in riot police. The violence occurred while residents of Schorndorf in the southern German state of Baden-Württemberg celebrated the town's week-long fair. However, while many were enjoying carnival rides and German beer, we can't have that. On Friday, the first day of the fair, at least 3 sexual assaults occurred in the town, resulting in the detention of an Iraqi suspect. So they only caught one guy as a result of this. Police reported 3 incidents of sexual harassment of women and men at the marketplace. In one case, an Iraqi suspect has been deterred. A police statement said a 17-year-old girl was the victim of a separate sexual assault after 3 men held her and grabbed her buttocks outside the town's main rail station, which of course is where they always seem to congregate. Meanwhile, around 1,000 youths and young men gathered at the grounds of Schorndorf Castle on Saturday, throwing bottles at festival goers and police. The violence faced by police was shocking, a police spokesperson said, as quoted by German media. Imagine you're in this medium-sized town. You're going to a festival. You're going to a town fair next to a castle. You think you're going to have fun. You're going to have a good time. It's going to be a community occasion. You're going to talk to your neighbors and friends. You're going to have a laugh. 1,000 frigging criminals show up and start pelting you with bottles. That's the cultural enrichment that Germans are experiencing right now. This is just one story out of many. I talked to you before about what was happening in Vienna, Austria, where a middle-aged woman was walking her dog and had to be hospitalized following a brutal beating in broad daylight by a veiled Somali asylum seeker offended by her pet dogs. And we've seen this in London and other cities where people try to get taxis and they try to take, small dogs in the taxis. Would normally be no problem whatsoever. Over the past 5-6 years, it's suddenly become a problem. Oh, I wonder why that is. Well, it's because Uber is basically a Pakistani monopoly in London. They don't like dogs. They're offended by dogs. You're not going to even walk your dog anymore. You'll be attacked and rightly so, because they have the moral high ground, don't they? Absolutely despicable. The victim, named only as Ingrid T., described how she was talking with neighbours at the gate of her garden, accompanied by dogs. The deaf, almost blind, three-legged collie Mix.
We're on the march.
Sitting peacefully
the
alongside.
Empire's on the run.
Talking about the migrant situation in Europe before the break, which continues to escalate, especially in terms of Italy, where they're being completely deluged. George Clooney's getting the hell out of there after he advocated the very policies that caused the crisis in the first place. Now we learn tourism up under Trump collapses in Europe following terror and migrant invasion. Now, they were really pessimistic, all the tourism industry reps, when Trump was elected president. They were saying this was doomsday for the tourist industry. It would lead to massive declines. Turns out the exact opposite has happened. Tourism is up in the United States. Wall Street Journal reports latest numbers from the U.S. Travel Association's Travel Trends Index showed 6.6% growth in international travel to the U.S. in April, 5% growth in May compared with the same months last year. Hotel occupancy in the United States for the first 6 months of 2017 is also, quote, higher than it has ever been before. Higher than it has ever been before, according to Jan Freitag, Senior Vice President with STR. You look at visits to museums in New York, they're up on the same period last year. You look at the theme park gateway, Florida Orlando International Airport, they're also reporting growth in domestic and international passengers. So everything is hunky-dory right now with the US tourism industry. Not so much the case in Europe, where we've had a wave of terror attacks, we've had mass migration, and it's had an impact. Now, you know, leftists in Europe might not like to talk about it. They might like to virtue signal all day while they're literally walking past open-air migrant camps on the streets of Paris with detritus and litter everywhere, crime rampant. But if you look at international visitors to Europe, that's collapsing as well. Germany, of course, normally seen as quite a safe place to visit, since they imported 2 million migrants, they've experienced declines of up to 40% of tourists visiting from countries such as Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. 10% drop in visitors to Germany from the United States, so they're experiencing it. You look at Brussels. Of course, we had the subway attack in Brussels at the start of 2016. Numerous terror plots linked to the city's infamous Molenbeek Islamic ghetto. Tourism in Brussels is collapsing. Weekend hotel revenue has dropped 22% and occupancy rates are down 10%. You look at London, which before the past, 3 months was seen as a safer destination than some of the other European capitals, even before the terrorist attacks in Manchester and the London Bridge attack. Visitor numbers to the English capital's most popular hotspots were dropping. 1 million fewer people visited the British Museum, the Natural History Museum, and the Victoria and Albert Museum in 2016 compared to the previous year. And according to Bernard Donoghue, director of ALVA, tourists are avoiding central London due to security fears. This was before the Manchester attack. This was before the Westminster attack. This was before the attack in London Bridge. This was before the spate of acid attacks that I talked about earlier. This was before the stabbings, which are through the roof. Reports of stabbings, people dying nearly every single day now in London. Even before all that, tourism was already collapsing. The owner of Alton Towers and Madame Tussauds said the most recent terror attacks in the UK have resulted in a further deterioration in domestic demand. So it's only going lower. Nice, of course, the truck attack back in July 2016. After that, and in fact before it as well, foreign tourists began shunning France in even greater numbers, with hotel occupancy rates in Paris halved compared to 2015, literally cut in half. 1.5 million fewer French and international tourists visited Paris in 2016 compared to 2015. Of course, we had a number of other terror attacks in Paris so far this year too. You look at Italy. Visitors to Rome are dropping. They're citing terror fears. You look at Sweden. They've got a government program in Sweden of turning holiday resorts into migrant centers, into migrant camps. Now there's no room for people who want to vacation there, like you ever would. But still, there's no room because they've turned all the hotels over to migrant camps. So you look at every single major European country that has accepted large numbers of migrants, tourism is on its knees. In America, it's doing very well. Thank you very much. Even though they said it was a doomsday scenario with Trump getting in, that he would cause tourism to collapse somehow. Like, tourists wouldn't want to visit because they would be, sanctifying his presidency or whatever. Actually turns out that America is rising in terms of tourism. Europe is collapsing because of the insane, disastrous policies of our leaders, which are now quite visible, quite evident on the streets of Europe if you visit any major capital city. And in fact, many smaller and medium-sized towns, as I talked about earlier, with even dog walkers in Vienna being attacked because dogs are unclean and, that's not part of their culture. We have to adapt to their culture. They don't have to adapt to ours.